I got into a online relationship with somebody I knew in the DMs that turned into conversations that shouldn't have been happening. And my wife found out the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard season for us.
So, welcome to Feedback with your man, Nick Alfano. You guys know all the F words that I'm absolutely in love with, but my number one word on the planet Earth, which I think controls everything you do if you learn to process it, is feedback. We have a special guest here, Mr. Mike Claudio, coming all the way from Greenville. I used to say Greenville, and they yelled at me. Greenville, South Carolina. And he actually drove out here. I know that drive all too well. So we've got him for a few minutes, for an hour or so. We're gonna get into some powerful stuff. So hang with us. And 3, 2, 1, here we go. Mr. Mike, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man?
How are you?
This is awesome. This is a cool little spot.
It's cool, huh?
It's functional.
Yeah. It's not full-blown my digs. I have to shout out my man Hyder. This is the Hit Lab. He leases it out and rents it out to folks that are kind of getting their podcast movement going. So this is one of our early episodes, so I appreciate you coming out and being one of the – I mean, you'll be one of the first 10 to drop. So
congrats, man, on doing the in-person, too. It's a game changer from the conversation to how it flows. And obviously you have a really good built-in audience, right? It's going to really benefit from these, so –
yeah, I appreciate that. I know, like Dan Martell was here recently, and I couldn't snag him quick enough, and he's done some calls for my guys, like on Zoom. He's trying to get to a live, so I'm like, man, maybe I'll just do a Zoom with him because he's a powerful guest. But I'm gonna try and stick with it. I am gonna stick with it, like lives only. You know, Nashville's kind of blowing up. Everyone's coming here for some reason or another. So my plan is to snag them, and we're kind of building out like a podcast circuit where you can hop on a few if you want to hang. So it's working out pretty well. So you know, it's been a bit of a, I guess, a long time in the making. I think for at least almost a year now, people are like, you got to get in front of this guy Claudio. Every time I see him speak, I see some of you. Every time I say you speak, I see some of him. He's doing a version of what you're doing in Greenville. We know a lot of similar folks. We've coached a lot of similar businesses or same businesses. And you know, talk to me a little bit about like WinRate and first of all, the name. I'm intrigued by the name. So how that came about, but then how you actually got into, you know, the consulting space, or what juiced you up to say that's the move?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll try to tell the story in like a condensed version. So I left corporate America probably 12 or 13 years ago and got in the construction space. And I helped a couple of companies grow from like a key leadership position, and people just started asking questions. I'm sure similar to you, right? You show some level of success in your own ecosystem. People are like, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? What am I doing wrong here? And I just started helping people for free because like I really like coaching. I coached baseball. I've coached sports. I've coached, you know, obviously businesses now and people and life in all different ways. But people started asking questions. And I did it for free before. Like I didn't know the coaching space previous to WinRate, because like my corporate America world was like, I saw a bunch of consultants who were like old, out of shape, would come in, sit in the conference room. They're like, I charge $250 an hour. And like, you know, I'm making like $100,000 a year, going like, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand it. And I sat down with a friend and was talking about helping these people. And I felt like I need to start monetizing it. And we came up with the name. Originally, WinRate was sales and marketing coaching, because that's what I was best at. Like I was really good at sales, really good at conversations, really good at sales process. And I told them, like, what do I want to help people do? I was like, I want to help them increase the rate at which they're winning projects. And so that's where WinRate kind of came from originally, was like increasing the rate.
What do you mean by projects? What do you say win projects?
So like closing deals, right?
Okay.
Like closing contracts. Like at the time I was doing construction. Previous to that was B2B sales for Verizon Wireless. But like closing projects, closing contracts. I want to increase the rate at which people are winning. And then like quickly I realized sales process creation is very simple. It's not easy, but it's not complicated. And then I really started getting into like really life coaching. Like I'm a life coach for leaders that happens to understand construction business really well. And that's how it kind of evolved over time. And like the whole brand now is about winning, and win fast, win often is, we'll call it the tagline. It was actually like a process that helped save my life at one point. But then over the years, it's just evolved. You know, like I went from an individual coach. Now we have 8 coaches on staff. And we primarily coach contractors in the 2 to 10 million range that are looking to, you know, create greater levels of success in their life and business. But that's where WinRate kind of came from originally, was like, I want to increase the rate at which people are winning, like in closing deals on the sales side. Then it's evolved into so much more than that over the last 6 years.
Well, it sounds like it, and I can't let you get away with that line without backing up. Like, so the rate at which you win. So it sounds simple enough, but then you snuck in. It saved my life at one point. Yeah. So we have to unpack that.
Yeah, well, we can unpack that. So So where WinFast went off and came from originally is looking at the types of ways and like the sales process closes. Like you win fast, and then like losing fast is actually the second best close. Winning slow and then losing slow. And I got taught that like in corporate America over the years of like, you want to win it or lose it fast, you can move on to the next one. You don't like a slow loss is the worst.
The worst. Yeah, I see
A
that.
slow win can be just as draining. So you want to win fast and win often was like how it started. Well, in 2019, we'll go long story short, I attempted suicide. And it was a really dark season. There's a lot of reasons behind it that I can like pinpoint as to what led to the bottom like falling out. And like I had dealt with seasons of like what would happen if I wasn't around, what would happen if like it'd be easier to just be gone, but never to the point where like I was actually ready to end it. And at the end of 2019, I hit a night that just the bottom fell out. And I'm not going to go through all the details of it, but winning fast and winning often became the survival technique to like climb out of that hole. Like every little win mattered. And like what I've learned and through that season, people ask a lot like, Mike, how did you get so comfortable just doing things your way? How'd you drop the opinion of others? And like, how did you become like, just, I'm going to do it Mike's way.
Especially
and
coming out of corporate America, because that's
Especially.
usually a no-no, right?
Well, I mean, like I went from like school being told to do by teachers to sports being told to do by coaches to go corporate America being told to do by middle managers. Like my whole life was built around living up to the expectation of others. I think a lot of people deal with that over the years in different, avenues of life or whatever. And I realized at the end of 2019 that like I had to start making decisions based on what I thought was best no matter what, or I might die. And that sounds exaggerated, but in that season, it wasn't like, oh, this night I survived it. Like I came through the other side and like, oh, I was just fine the next day. Like it was months of like going on walks in the neighborhood, like talking myself out of throwing myself in front of a car. And I knew that I had to win the next decision. Win fast, win often became the defining what winning meant to me and what it looked like to me, and then winning every decision, because it was like win the next decision or crawl into a bottle and die. Like those were the options. And so like fast and often became the survival mechanism of like defining and creating really small wins.
Yeah, baby wins.
Baby wins.
People don't understand how important making your bed can
It's
be enough
the
of a win.
biggest thing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's little things. It's like don't go to Pornhub this morning.
Yeah.
Don't buy the alcohol. Don't do this thing. Go to the gym. Like even little things like set your gym clothes out the night before. Make sure your alarm's set. The little excuses that I used to believe became non-negotiable anymore. And the little wins, the get up on time, the don't do that thing, the throw out all the alcohol,
Well, I think we're so quick to not give ourselves any credit or any grace for those little moves. We think that that's like an expectation, if you will. And it sounds obviously like they're non-negotiables now, but you still have to give yourself credit for those micro wins.
You have to.
Yeah,
you have to.
Yeah.
And that's where the win fast, win often mindset became a survival mechanism, but also a lifestyle change of I just have to win the next decision. If I can just win the next decision, that's the best I can do.
Yep.
Worrying about tomorrow or worrying about tonight or worrying about this afternoon or worrying about next year or worrying about the next project doesn't help. Because if I don't win the next decision right now, later doesn't matter. I'll underperform what's possible for me regardless later if I don't just win the next decision. And at this point it was get up on time, get out of bed, make the bed, take a shower today. Don't throw myself in front of a car. Like
no, I love it. First of all, I want to address the Pornhub one because there's a lot of listeners that will that's going to hit for them. They're not going to own it, of course. A lot of guys won't own that one, but we both coach a lot of men, and that's hands down one of the largest ones. I know alcohol is a big one, but the addiction to porn nowadays, that people don't understand how powerful that is. That dopamine hit. It's as destructive as heroin long term. Like it really is on the brain.
But there hasn't been one time I think that like I masturbated to porn and finished and was like, that was worth it.
Yeah.
Like not once.
Yeah.
I think was it like that.
I'll give you my story. My story was similar to like what's the movie? Wolf of Wall Street, right? Where it was almost like I told myself I need a clear mind to get to the next thing. So let me just go rub one out and.
Yeah, 3 times a day is what
it was like efficient or whatever it was. There was another time I moved out here a year ahead of my wife. Because we had a kid finishing school in Cali. And so I was in Nashville for a year by myself. And I'm like, well, I can't go out with a loaded gun, so let me that became a daily thing. And the reality is what people don't understand, then she finally moved out here a year later and we weren't having sex anywhere near as often as we should have because it was just like convenient and easy. And it just became systematic for me. And people don't understand how you have to unwind that behavior and how powerful it is.
I think numbing emotion to the reality of today has become the addiction. Like that's where like the death scroll on social media comes from. It's just like I don't want to have to deal with the emotions of today. So let me go get lost in this thing. For some people, it's video games. For some people, it's social media. For some people, it's porn.
Sedation. Yep,
it's that's the biggest issue. And when you cut those things out, like right now, I have social media blocked on my phone.
Are you using Opal or?
I just deleted it, the app, and I blocked it in like the content restrictions. So like I got Facebook, Instagram, Pornhub, OnlyFans. Those are the 4 websites that I cannot get to on my phone.
Nice.
And I've never been on OnlyFans, but I'm like, it was a risky analysis.
So hold on, stay there for a second because that's powerful. The risk analysis, the level of awareness and ownership of like I'm gonna mark that one off, even though I've never been there. It checks a box for me that I might go there. So let's just go ahead and proactively be hyper aware of who I am as a human being, own the shit out of it, right? We call it obviously, and we don't. The world calls this shadow work. It's like really just acknowledge your shadow and the fact that my shadow might lead me down this rabbit hole that I don't need, that does not serve me.
Well, and I think when you can acknowledge your weaknesses, it allows you to celebrate your strengths easier.
Absolutely.
Because you're not afraid of it anymore. I'm not afraid to talk about it, which steals the power from it. Which means, like, people say, like, Mike, how are you so comfortable on stage? Like, put me in front of 10,000 people. It doesn't matter. I'm actually more nervous in front of 3 people. It's like, you got to do a better job. Like, 10,000 people, I'll find one person to impact.
Yeah, one guy will listen. Yeah.
One guy. But the reality is I'm not afraid of my weaknesses because I'm able to talk about them. And it steals the power from them. And so I'm allowed to say, I'm really good at this. Yeah, but Mike, you suck at that. You're right. And I'm okay with that. You can't come through my armor because I'm willing to tell you.
Yeah.
And so acknowledge that, talking to my wife about it. Like it's been probably 3 years since I've watched porn. And I still tell my wife, it was like 2 weeks ago, hey babe, like I'm a little stressed right now. I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm a little anxious and I'm feeling drawn back to porn. I'm talking to you about it so that it steals the power. We can have a conversation about it. We have sex plenty.
Sure.
But I still have that muscle memory of when I feel alone, when I feel anxious, when I feel overwhelmed, that was my retreat to hide from it. And so now I just talk about it. Like I've helped probably 24 men have the conversation with their wife about their addiction to porn.
Which is one of the most powerful things they can do. Like you
changes lives. And like, I've seen an array of reactions to that. Some wives are very grateful. Some get upset. But every single one of them at some point have come back to them and acknowledged their responsibility in what drove you to porn. I haven't been taking care of myself. I haven't been interested in sex. I haven't pursued you. When you're able to talk about it, it gives the other person permission to express their weaknesses or their concerns.
And like you said, it doesn't always start that way, though.
No.
Sometimes it's a friction. It's like, whoa, are you kidding me? This is unacceptable.
It's anger. It's resentment.
But if you sit in it long enough, or if you just keep bringing it back up, look, this conversation is not going anywhere, lady. This is happening. And we're going to experience our experience. And
this is a weakness.
Yeah.
Like for years, it got me in trouble in the DMs.
Yeah.
Like when you express some level of success and you got like tattoos and you got a beard, and you got some muscle mass, like there are aggressive women out there. And for years, I didn't understand the power of how easily conversations can slide past okay. And like that line gets blurred. And like full transparency, like I got into a online relationship with somebody I knew in the DMs that turned into conversations that shouldn't have been happening. And my wife found out the wrong way. Yeah. And it was a very hard season for us.
Define the wrong way for our audience. So some guys don't know what the wrong way is, unfortunately.
So she found out because she got logged onto my computer to get something and a message popped up, which led her down a rabbit hole of messages that I regret to this day that she had to read.
How long ago was this?
Oh, man. 8 years?
Yeah.
7 or 8 years?
DMs were a thing? DM was a thing 8
DM
years
was
ago?
a thing 8 years ago,
old,
man. Yeah. And so... So what I did was I acknowledged I struggle when I'm feeling bad. But we also uncovered that like when my wife doesn't feel like she's in shape, she's not interested in sex. And so we both acknowledged that what led to this, not that my wife was at fault.
Yeah, it wasn't her fault.
It wasn't her fault.
Sure,
but I'm like, factors. Hey, this is what I'm missing. I'm missing this intimacy. Why is it not happening? And it came down to like postpartum issues with her after we were having kids and not feeling like she loved her body, assuming I didn't love her body. And like, if you've been married for any period, like we've been married for almost 12 years. And if you marry for any, like you think your wife's sexy no matter what she looks 100%. Like.
100%.
Because you love her for way beyond like what her pant size is right now. Yeah. And she doesn't like, they don't get that just as much as we don't get that,
no,
right?
If we
like,
say, well, yeah, you can throw it back on our side. If we're not feeling like the man and we're not beating our chest like King Kong, we're not you know, I've had seasons where I've taken my shirt off in the dark and just slide into bed real quick.
Yeah.
Well,
like
we're not initiating sex then either.
There was a season where I was like, my wife actually met me at my worst. And
how long have you guys been together, by the way?
I guess 14 years together, 13 and a half years together, 12 years married. Yeah. But like when she met me, I was making $60,000 a year and I weighed like 330 pounds. And so like she fell in love with me like at my worst. So like any level of insecurity I have now is just my own issue. Because she loved me like she couldn't even get her arm. Like I was a 47-inch waist, bro. When she met me, she couldn't get her arms around me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I'm not that anymore. Like, I'm probably like 250, 255.
Hold on. For the record, we're going to pause for a second. My man that set the podcast up before he left, he said, hey, this guy looks like you if you actually lifted weights. But he was serious. He didn't say it like in jest. He said, hey, I know you, because I had a moped accident. I like to say motorcycle.
Yeah. No, call it the motorcycle.
It sounds cool. Yeah. So I crashed a moped a year ago, yada, yada, and I haven't been in the gym enough. And he's like, you know, I know you had an accident, but like, this is what you could look like, Nick. So anyway, that was a great start for my ego jumping into this podcast. Anyway, keep going.
But I think talking about it, like men and women don't want to talk about their weaknesses. And so I appreciate your acknowledgement of like that shadow work and that like
what we resist persists. So when you deny that part of you, like you said, you said it better. You give it power.
You give it power,
absolute
so
power.
much power.
Yeah.
And you get so afraid of being open and confident in your strengths. That's what I see when I help people win fast, win often, and build. We call your championship version of yourself. People are so afraid to be okay with their strengths because if you only knew about my weaknesses, you wouldn't celebrate my strengths. If you only knew about this part of me that no one knows about, you wouldn't celebrate what I'm good at. And it steals all the joy from what you're good at. So if you're willing to stand up and say, hey, I struggle with porn, I struggle with women, I struggle with alcohol, here's what I'm doing about it.
Yep.
And then I say, I'm also a great speaker, I'm also a great leader, I'm also great at helping people, I'm a great mentor. They're like, well, I can believe you. And I can believe me.
Yeah. That's the most important part.
That
because
is the most important
to your
part.
point, if you don't acknowledge all of the demons, past or present, right? Because, I think, because I've watched you post lately some, I think, how many days has it been? Alcohol-free, the sobriety?
Like 150 or something.
Yeah, so I've been keeping up with that with you.
December 27th was the last drink.
And what's interesting is you don't see enough, I don't know if I want to call them L's, but you just don't see people posting when they're in their pit. Like when I cuss on my own podcast. So when they're in their shit, and they don't want to post that. But that's the best time because people want permission and they're stuck with you too. And when they watch you rise. Anyway, I call it my 8 mile moment, Eminem. Like I'm the same. When I get on a stage, I've been cheating on my wife for 17 years. I've done a lot of horrible things in my life, but I've also learned a lot of things. And this is who I am now and how I'm showing up. But those things about me are still very real, and they don't. It's not that they don't exist, but I'm gonna drop every mic I can before you can drop one on me. It's such a powerful way to live.
Well, and what I think people get afraid of is people get afraid of losing relationships that they have in their life now that makes them feel safe. And the reality is that relationship's built on a lie.
Yep.
And they're in love with a version of you that is a fraction, which means you're constantly in a state of protection. You're constantly in a state of don't look in that corner, don't open that door.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible way to live. That is a fucking terrible way to live. And I lived that way for a really long time out of guilt and shame and frustration and like alcohol abuse. And I lived in a state of, if no one finds out, I won't lose anything.
And what did that do for your capacity or lack thereof to actually create? Like, there's no way you create WinRate from that place because the amount of energy it takes to, like you said, kind of uphold the image here. The image over here is a little different. The image with this guy is a little different. And I've got to like wear all these masks. And so I can't truly show up.
And there were the friends that knew the shitty version of me saying, who are you to think you can be on stage? Yeah. Which creates that like, well, if they don't, the imposter syndrome. And so when I dropped this is who I really am.
Yeah.
These are all, and whoever's still around, I can trust. And guess what? I didn't lose anybody that fucking mattered.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Hold on, say that one again, because that's where guys are scared.
I didn't lose anybody that mattered. Because the reality is that person that was around for the fake version of me was also being fake.
Yep.
Because that person was like, one of the best things, like I've really been focused on my relationship with God over the last like 2 years, like actually intentionally pursuing a relationship. And it might have been a meme I saw once, but it's God removes people from your life for the things they're saying when you're not around. Like God removes people from life for the things they're saying about you when you're not around. And you're never going to know why, like, and it could feel like the biggest loss or the biggest gap or the biggest hole in your life because certain people were removed. But so often people continue to be somebody they're not to keep people around that are not actually helping them. And when you build a leadership team, like I for the first time in WinRate's history, I have a leadership team in charge. Yeah. Like they're not just in place anymore. I have a leadership team in charge. And those people would not be as bought into the mission if all I was the success and I wasn't willing to talk about the failures. Because what I did was I gave them permission to be talking about their failures, which made the whole team better. Like we threw our quarterly event. Our quarterly event last quarter was the biggest quarterly client event we've thrown. And it was by far it's the 14th quarterly event we've thrown.
Nice.
We had people from stage talking about their addiction from porn. We had people from stage talking about interested in like finding God. We had people praying over people. We had people's businesses being talked about. We had people being open about bankruptcies. Like the energy in the room was so lifting because people were dropping the bullshit that doesn't fucking matter.
Yep.
And no one talks about, like you said, like you've seen me talk about my sobriety journey and like my wife and I are committed to sober 2024. I got like 60 grand worth of red wine in my house. Like it's there. I don't touch it. I'm not drawn to, because I'm like I'm sure you're very similar. Like once I make a decision to do something, it just is.
Game over.
Yeah. It just is. Like I'm gonna be sober in 2024. Like I don't even miss it. And I'm not suggesting I'm gonna be sober forever, but like talking about it has clients committed to sobriety. And like alcohol is such an interesting dichotomy of it's in every movie, it's in every commercial, it's always tied to celebration.
How everything's celebration in this country is food and alcohol.
It's amazing.
I've had clients where I'm like, hey, why don't you meet me in the gym, or we go on a walk and talk, you know? And even if it's a remote client, I'm like, hey, every day at least one of my clients knows it's not Zoom this time, it's walk and talk, and I'm gonna go walk. I get about 4 miles in an hour. It's kind of a mall walking pace, so I look like a weirdo, I'm sure. But you got to go walk. Like, what does it look like if we met and did something productive instead of meet and just like eat like crap and drink beer?
Well, that's what people have said about our events, because alcohol is not a central part of it.
Yeah.
And like,
we've never had any of ours yet.
And so like that's like freeing to some people, because at home the barbecues, the networking events is all about like happy hour stuff.
Yeah.
But talking about it and being open about it gives other people permission. And that's the part I think so few leaders, specifically men that are leaders, understand the power of. When you giving yourself permission to be open about the stuff you don't want people to know about, the amount of permission you grant others, because like you're an influencer. If you're listening to this, you're an influencer. You're influencing somebody, and somebody's looking to you as to what the standard is.
Yeah.
And when you give other people permission to drop that shit and step away from it, it changes so much of people's lives and their commitment to relationships, to themselves.
And I hope any listeners right now are really honing in on that particular message around permission. Like, so we're both good friends with Hunter Ballou, you know, and he actually, he won't say he'll get pissed if I say this on this, so I'll say it. I used to like, quote unquote, be his coach, if you want to call it that. He was a part of a group that I was a coach at.
Yep.
It was like 3 a.m. We're sitting in a golf cart. It was like a really long 3-day event. And he basically called me selfish. And it was because, and I'm very vulnerable. It's kind of my thing from stage. I cry. I get grown men to get vulnerable. But I've never launched this podcast yet. And look how long it's taken, by the way. This is 2.5 years ago. And he said, if you don't start telling your story, you're selfish. And I didn't understand that. And it really triggered me at the time. But then the more you unpack it, he's absolutely right. Because to your point, if everybody has a story, and everybody, that story gives another man permission to step up to what's possible, to set a new standard. And so many of us are so frightened to tell our story because of what are people going to think or say, et cetera. And to me, it's, as soon as you shift gears from it's not about you, it's never been about you, first of all. But yeah, when you realize it's not about you, and it's actually your responsibility to yell. Like last year I did 82 podcasts, I guess, but I still haven't started my own. So to me, it doesn't count. So, but anyway, yeah, I just
skirted the system.
Yeah, but I love because the word vulnerability and man, you know, in the same breath is definitely like a still semi-taboo. You know, it's unheard of for that, and I think that's what you've been bringing to the marketplace for so long, and which is why people keep saying we got to get in the same room. So.
No, 100%. But I want to make this point because this is a very important differentiator thing a lot of people struggle with. As a man or a woman or anybody, when you drop your shit, when you like unload it, a lot of people are afraid to do that because they don't want to place that burden onto somebody else. And what I've learned over time, like unpacking things with my wife, is just because I'm taking it off and putting it down doesn't mean I'm asking you to pick it up. Yeah. Like, so the picture is like, take that backpack off and place it on the table so everybody can see it.
Yeah. Unzip every pocket. Yeah.
But no one has to pick it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a unique way that I've been able to unpack it in, I'm not handing this to you. And I'm not asking you to fix it. Because I think that's tough too, especially with your wife.
Well,
right?
men are problem solvers, so all we want to do is solve every problem.
And wives only want to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Like I want you to. No, babe, I don't need you to do anything, but give me the space to unpack this.
Yeah.
Let me take this bag off. Let me take this weight off my shoulders and put it down on the table. Please don't pick it up.
Yeah.
I.e., don't try to solve it. Don't try to understand it. Don't take it personally.
Carry this weight with you.
It's not about you. You're in an environment for me to unpack this and take this weight off, so I can become a better person. And when you set up I think so few people do a good job setting expectations of conversations. Like, this is the desired outcome. This is the role I need you to play right now.
Yeah.
If you can do that well, the fear of talking about anything starts to go away.
We teach our guys no frame, no game. And so if you don't establish a frame going into any conversation, any experience, then you will lose the game. You know what I mean? And
that's a great way to look at it.
That's a beautiful. It's not being taught enough. Like you said, if you don't set clear boundaries prior to said conversation, it's going to go where it's going to go, and likely not where you intended it to go.
Even something as simple as like, hey, this is going to hurt your feelings, but I can't keep carrying this. I'm not asking you to pick it up, but I need you to know so that I can stop carrying this.
I love the not pick. I absolutely love that. Just the mental imagery is going through my head. That perspective of I'm putting it on the table. I'm unzipping it all. Do not touch it.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Do not pick it up. Do not carry it.
I don't need you to fix this because you can't. It's also not your job to fix this.
Yeah.
But it's my job to fix me, and to fix me, I need to take this weight off my shoulders.
Powerful.
And you can do that with customers. Hey, I fucked that proposal up. I just need you to know, like, I don't know how I'm gonna fix this yet. And like, if you feel called to like sue me or something, I totally understand. But understand, I did not do this intentionally. Because like, if you don't tell people the truth, they're always going to assume the worst. They're forever and ever and ever. Their selfishness, their insecurities, excuse me, their DIY nightmare bullshit that they see on TV, the news, it all says somebody's out to get you.
Yeah.
At no point they're like, man, I bet this was a really tough project for him and he probably just missed this.
This was an honest mistake.
Was an honest mistake.
That's never one of the narratives. Yeah.
Never. And so just saying it, hey, this was an honest mistake. I did not do this. Here's what I prepared to do about it.
Yeah.
Or here's your options. Like, I did construction for a long time, and definitely not every project went well. And sometimes the answers are, hey, we fucked this up, and here's your three options. Yeah. You can cancel right now and sue us. You can allow us to continue to work and fix this problem. Yeah. And with this change order, because I wasn't priced for this, it's going to cost you more money because we didn't price for this appropriately. Or three, you can hire somebody else and pay more than you're paying me right now. Those are your honest three answers. Yeah. Those are the three options. And then that becomes this, let's work together to solve this problem. Let's not make it me versus you. People are just so insecure that people are out to get them, that simple frame changes everything.
Well, we like to approach, again, I'm a big F word guy, obviously, facts over feelings. And so what you just laid out to Miss Jones will say, those are just the facts. Those are what they are. These are your three options. This is factually your three choices right now. And let's try not to attach feelings to any of these three. Let's just process this. Let's just hover over this situation and really just analyze the facts and know that, to your point, it's not me versus you. It's me and you versus this project that you want done, and heck, I want it done too.
And don't be afraid. like let's talk about the porn conversation. Don't be afraid. Porn client, wife, friend, whatever. Don't be afraid to say, hey, this conversation is getting way more emotional than I think is in our favor. Let's revisit this at a later time. Like, don't be afraid to say, hey, this conversation is going somewhere I didn't want it to go. I've done this with my leaders. Like, I'll call a leader, like, hey, man, I'm seeing this, this, and this. I'm bringing it to your attention, and they get defensive. Hey, man, not my intent of this conversation. You're clearly triggered right now. Not what I was hoping to have. I want to.
Yeah, nothing's going to land after that anyway. So you might as well.
Let's revisit this.
I like
Don't be afraid to end the conversation, no matter what it is. Like, dozens of men I've had coach through the conversation with their spouse. Dozens of different reactions. If she gets emotional, like, hey, I understand why you're angry. I'd like to revisit this conversation once you have time to process this. That's the mature, objective, unemotional. Don't try to prove yourself right. Don't try to justify. Don't make excuse. Yeah, well, you weren't sucking my dick the way you were supposed to. No.
But see, that's feelings. That's what I try.
That's feelings.
Just look, can you become, we train, can you become the observer in this moment, live, in real time, as you get good at it with reps? And just ask yourself, what are the facts? Because when I unpack it and I show up this way and I process it this way, I don't ever get the intended result. So to your point, how can I course correct? How can I show up different and change the facts, not the feelings associated. Because I mean, so you're saying if we go back to your scenario around potentially a client, you're saying you've oftentimes recognized when you've triggered a client and you saying let's back out.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, because like when you tell a client that like, hey, the options are sue me, pay more, or hire somebody else.
Yeah.
Like those aren't great options, and neither one of us are winning in that. And some clients just want to be heard. Some clients just want an opportunity to yell at you and say, "Cool, you got that out of your system? Can we have like let's have a real conversation now?" Because most people just want to be heard. They're assuming they're not going to be heard, but absolutely, I've used that with clients. You know, specifically in construction, because like you're in their house.
Yeah.
You're doing a major kitchen remodel. You're in their house for months, and it gets old. You know, being out of routine for them and like their kids and not having normal routine. And then like, you know, the drywall phase gets dust fucking everywhere, and like they're over it. And
so are you, real quick, are you coaching now? Are you still doing construction as well, or are you just doing coaching full time?
Just doing coaching full time.
And then you're strictly, like your avatar is mainly construction
contractors.
guys?
Yeah.
Okay, contractors.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And that could be like GCs or subs, like down to like home service guys too, or just okay.
All of it. Basically,
Gotcha.
if you sell a product or service to a homeowner, you're our target client base.
Okay.
So myself and all the coaches on staff have run multi-7-figure construction companies. That some still do, some used to. So that's our primary avatar.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so when did I know 2019 was you know the
Pivotal.
moment, but when did you actually launch WinRate? What do you see for the future of this bad boy? Like,
Yeah, so I officially like LLC'd in actually 2018. In 2019, I left the roofing company I was at, went full-time coaching with a like, if I can hit a certain revenue target in 2019, I'll go full-time. We hit that target. And so like where we're at now, you know, we're doing multiple millions of dollars and, you know, 8 coaches. We got 90 or 95 clients right now. And so what's next for us? We have like a set kind of vision, which is 5, 20, 50, 80. So like we do some fractional CEO stuff. We do like we have Hall of Fame, Champion Circle, Small Business Academy. Like those, we have fractional, Hall of Fame, Champion Circle, Small Business. So like 5, 20, 50, 80 is our next kind of base camp. So we know like how many clients, how much revenue that is, how many coaches we'll need, and we're kind of like working towards that base camp right now. We're a high ticket environment. Like I'm not interested in building volume. I like the intimate one-on-one coaching space. And like there's been few people I have found that have been able to scale that model effectively, because it's hard. Like when you're an individual, like you're the guy, and then like trying to like
so coaching, you're still selling time for money, which is very you know, you're destined for critical mass, and so you have to play the high ticket game.
You have to.
And if you know what you bring to the table, it's I mean, let me ask you real quick to stay on that. Do you get pushback when the guy just can't afford you, or
for sure?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for us, like we don't do a lot of cold marketing. So most of our people are referred in, so they have a general understanding, like, hey, they're not cheap, but they're worth it, kind of like mindset when they get there. But like we're not to the point where like we guarantee an ROI. Like we have 100% ROI guaranteed, or you get your money back. I've had that in the contract since day one. And because like if you hired me for a kitchen, I remodeled your fucking bathroom, like you ain't paying me for that, right?
Unless it was a really good bathroom. Bro.
Even then,
if I could eat in my bathroom.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if I made your bathroom a kitchen. But like I always felt the same way about coaching. Was like if I don't give you what you're looking for, because we do a monthly recurring model, which means you're prepaying for a lot of the value, right? Because it takes 6 months to really like elicit change that has a financial return. Yeah, right. It takes 90 days to understand, another 90 days to implement, and then you start to see and feel the benefits. So you're prepaying for some of the value. And so I wanted people to feel confident in that. And then starting to bring in other coaches. Like I'm about 2.5 years into
building a team
of coaches. And man, it was hard.
Well, could you touch on that for a second? So here's what I deal with. So we have a very similar avatar, obviously. And a lot of my guys will start, we'll take guys in their solopreneur phase, which we're trying to get out of. But all that to say, you set out to build a business, and then you have to learn how to build people. And then the people build the business. And that is the new levels, new devils. Because building a team to build your business is a completely different struggle. Like
specifically when you're selling opinions for a living, right? Because that's what we do. Like as a coach, I'm selling you my
anecdotally,
opinion.
This is what works. Yeah.
Like based on my experience, based on what you said, based on what I know, based on how I've
hold on real quick. I don't know if it's opinions after 2 or 3 years in though, because now you have, like we're out of proof of concept phase. I can say with facts this framework applied here has gotten at least 30 other guys to the to the mountaintop.
I'm still just selling my version of something. Sure. Like I'm just telling you. It's still like my opinion.
I guess where I'm going is it's in between opinion and fact. It's a very substantiated opinion whereby it's
true.
Because I think everything has 2 points of
evidence. It's not a guess.
Anecdotal and published data. Yeah. So anecdotal is this worked for me. Published is now you have a record of clients that have won with this exact system.
Agreed.
Right. So
fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
But it's still opinion nonetheless.
But it's still Mike's opinion.
Sure.
And it's still Mike's anecdotal. It's still Mike's client's results.
Sure.
Bring in a Clifton or a Sam or a Dave.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right? Like, and now I'm selling something that's someone else's perspective on their own.
So when Clifton applies Mike's framework, we don't know for sure yet, or it's a little tougher to buy.
Mike doesn't really sell a framework.
Okay.
So like Mike has principles and strategies, foundational stuff. But we've actually battled this for years on like, do we develop a structured coaching approach? And the reality is I'm not interested in that. So I'm basically, Nick comes in, I say, hey man, based on where you're at, this is the best coach for you. Based on who you are, where you are, what you want, industry type, like size of your company. Because I have coaches that are anywhere from like 1 to 3 million in revenue in their businesses to 30 to 40 million and so like depending on where you're at, depending on different variables, I'm like, this is the person for you, and you're just trusting me. And then that person is basically saying, where are you? What do you need? And then I'm gonna plug myself into that. Because the way WinRate operates is like, we meet you where you are, help you figure out where you want to go, and then walk that journey with you. So it's very customized to you, right? I'm sure very similar to how you do it. But like how Dave does something or Clifton does something, neither one's right or wrong, but it's different. And what works for that person now becomes the variable.
How many people do you find are, because it's a warm network, because that's all we do too, we have yet to do cold traffic, because it's a tough sell, cold traffic to a large ticket.
100%.
Then it's very custom.
It's not worth the investment.
How many people are looking for the Mike Claudio show and then frustrated if they get a Clifton? I'm sure I know you're setting it up for success.
It took me 18 months.
Yeah, how long did it take to get out of the seat?
It took me 18 months to lose the disappointment.
Okay.
And the way we did it was we started highlighting coaches in our content. So people were like, I'm paired with, I've seen Clifton, I've seen Sam, I've seen Nate, I've seen Dave. So now it's not a newbie. Like when Clifton first joined, no one knew Clifton. Clifton didn't have an online brand yet. He wasn't like in the ecosystem yet. And so after Clifton is the only coach right now that wasn't a client first. And so every other coach has been promoted from client to coach.
And almost all my coaches came through the container.
And so
I love that.
And then we use them in the content game, primarily on like Instagram, Facebook, events, on our stages.
So I want to pause for a second so my listeners can understand this. This is a very important subject right here, like because a lot of guys that try to go from solopreneur to team building, it's usually their ego that's got them so attached to it. You know, they say it's not the Mike Claudio or Nick Alfano show, but they don't want to let it go. But they also don't know how. And so what you're saying is you have to start leveraging, like the content can no longer be Mike Claudio's face is WinRate. It has to be Clifton. It has to be okay. So
yeah, and so doing that, I would say it took 18 months of people like, oh, I was expecting Mike, to, oh, I'm sure Mike's not available. Who am I going to be working with? That took 18 to 24 months to go from like the first 5 clients, no, either Mike or I'm not interested. Sure. Like that was probably the first 6 months.
What has that done for you, by the way, besides freedom of time? Because and we're such in a similar spot. I'd say you're ahead of me in that particular part of the game.
Yep.
My wife is constantly yelling at me in terms of like, you answer your phone for everybody all the time. You're always available. Like no one values your time. You're treating people how to treat you. And I'm like, well, I want to be like, to your point, I love how intimate. I know everyone's wife's name, kids' names, birthdays, pain points.
Because that 8:00 at night phone call is really what they're paying you for.
A lot of times, especially my higher level guys.
For sure.
And so she's like, you're never going to ditch the Nick Alfano show if they keep getting Nick Alfano at the drop of a dime. You know. So is that something like, how did you make that transition for guys that are struggling there?
The simplest one was I had built enough credibility and trust with my audience. Like, so we'll use that 6-month period. We had people that were like, Mike or else, cool. I had no more time. Like it wasn't an option. It was Mike or else, cool. Come back later. To Mike, I've known you long enough and I've followed you long enough that I trust you. If you're saying Clifton's good enough to help me, I believe you. And it took some of those success stories to say that real life, Clifton got these results with these clients, because Clifton's my longest standing coach on staff. To now, like people went to a year later, hey, I'm actually calling. I like Clifton's perspective on this thing because I've been putting it out in front of them between the podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram. To like, I have the least amount of clients I've ever had right now, like personally. You know, I got like maybe 12 of the 90.
But how does that feel? That's another thing I think entrepreneurs struggle with is how do you, if you're not building yourself out of a business from day one, you're not really a business owner. Your business owns you.
Yeah, you're just a really highly compensated employee.
Yeah.
I was a very well compensated employee for a long time.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of this year, let me back up. The beginning of 2022, I made an announcement to my entire ecosystem. I'm going to go on the journey to become the CEO of this company. I can no longer be head coach. I can't. It won't work. I'm out of time. At that point, I had like 45 one-on-one clients. I was drowning. Yeah. Drowning.
Keep going. Keep talking.
Drowning. And I was like, for the betterment of the mission, I have to become the CEO. So like decisions started getting made more intentionally, and clients understood because our clients are business owners. I'm like, hey man, what would you do if you were in this position? Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Well, eventually, if you had more than 45 and you're at critical mass, you're just going to let everyone down anyway.
I was already letting people down. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm on like my eighth call of the day, completely drained, eyes sunken in because I know enough to know we're very similar. We pour into these guys. Right?
I just came off a 3-day event yesterday, and you know how it goes. Like
100%.
When you're taking everyone else's emotional baggage and then their business pain points,
and you want to carry it for them.
Yep.
And so I was like, I'm letting people down, and then I made the hardest decision ever. It was April 2022. I told 10 clients of mine, I either need to pair you with another coach or I need to cancel your contract. I can't keep doing this.
How did those conversations go?
I called everyone personally. Only one person canceled contract. The other 9 said, Mike, I trust you. If you think this person can get me the results, I'll give it 90 days. 8 of those 9 are still clients. And I cried.
Yeah.
I felt like a bait and switch bullshit, motherfucking another online coach, overselling, under-delivering. I felt terrible about it. But I had such a hard time saying no to people that wanted help.
Yeah.
And we had a really great sales season at the end of 21. So like we went on a massive growth spurt. I just kept saying yes.
Yeah.
And I woke up one day with like 45. It was like 45 or 47 clients.
I get more stress after an event because that's how we sell from stage, right?
Yep.
And so when we onboard 12 new people, everyone's like, oh, the event's over. It's probably a big weight off your shoulders. It's a lot to go into those. It's like, no, I'm more stressed the day that they all paid their first payment 100%. Than I am the day I tried to sell.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because this is the work now.
100%.
Yeah.
And so like progressionarily over time, one of the biggest changes I think I made that I undervalued at the time was I changed my verbiage from I to we. And like on content, podcast, Instagram,
Copy,
from stage,
page,
everything,
yeah.
all verbiage switched from I coach contractors to we coach contractors. Our team. I still struggle with it.
So we've made that big pivot, but to your point, I don't do it all the time myself, and that's a big difference.
And like my team started giving me feedback. Mike, that was a great speech from stage, but you can't keep saying I coach contractors. Because I did it in an event. I got really high. Like I'm sure similar to you. Like when I speak from stage, I like black
Flow
out.
state. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
No idea. And I was crushing. It's one of the best. Like there's probably 700 or 800 people. And
Is this out where you're at near Greenville?
No, this was actually in Florida.
Okay.
It was FloorCon, and it was one of the best I've done. But at the end, it was like I am passionate about this. And then I want to work with Mike.
Yeah.
It happened again.
Yeah.
Because of how I delivered the impact emotionally from stage. That simple the way it's received changed.
Night and day.
And so it took about 18 months from the beginning of 2022 and that I need to become the CEO to about the middle of 23 before people started calling, assuming they were not going to get me.
I hope you guys are hearing that, all my listeners, because that I to we is like literally like after this call, go and check this podcast, go and check your webpage, go and
everything.
check it all, because you're likely, if you're still stuck in ego land.
Well, if I never look at contractors, I think a lot of people struggle making their sales team part of their content strategy. Like if you're a business owner right now in any industry and you have a sales team, they are the face of your company. And if the only time someone gets to see or hear them is when they call in, there's zero trust.
Yeah.
There's no trust built. There's no commonality. There's no camaraderie. There's nothing. If you have a sales team, like, yeah, but Mike, I don't want them to like build a personal brand and then leave. Okay, well, like, cool. Yeah. They're going to leave anyway.
Someday. Create a culture that they want to stay, and then create a relationship. Like we have a rule, if you ever leave, I think if you leave any business, you should replace yourself 2 times over. It's simple. And they might not be as good as you, but that's why you got to find 2 guys. So if you're going to leave as the sales guy and you're 72% closer, go find a couple 40% guys, train them up and say, thank you for the opportunity. And because, I think we both think this way. I want you to outgrow me. 100%. If you want to be here for a lifer, that's great. But like, let's talk about what that looks like.
If you can be a business owner, if you can go do what Mike Claudio did,
I will help you.
Please go.
Yep.
But like, we make it look easy.
Yeah, 100%.
Coaching's so much harder than people give it.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Hands down. And so now I'd say like where are we going next? I'm gonna move. I'm in the process of moving out of one-on-one coaching and into more equity, like fractional CEO stuff.
Yeah,
like that's the next step for me because I enjoy that more. Because the reality is, and I'm gonna say this because I'm one of the best leaders I know, and me coaching you, and then you having to like phone call that, telephone that down the chain of command inside your company, it gets diluted.
100%.
And so me coming in and like tomorrow, I'm in Nashville to go. I have a client I meet with once a quarter in person.
Yep.
I'm sitting in their team meeting tomorrow. They know me. The leadership team knows me. And so I'm coming in and leading them directly tomorrow.
Yeah, if you could deliver to leadership or C-suite, it's going to land better than, like
Way
you
better.
said. I'll deliver to CEO, and we'll see how he trickles it down. Yeah.
But most people bring me in because they know I'm like I can bring them something.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of what's next for me. I enjoy it more.
So you're talking about, because we're a big, the back end of our program is scale and exit. So we've had a few exits. We're working on some now, and we take a small piece, And so is that what you're talking about? Like take an equity play and take these guys to the liquidation event, or just stay in the cash flow world and get cashed out on like?
It depends. Like, so I'm not fully, I don't know yet. The answer is I don't know yet. I haven't done enough of them.
Have you had equity conversations with folks though? Because that's always a tough one.
I currently have some equity in some companies that I'm coaching.
How'd those conversations go?
It's
like wrestling like their toy away from
I
them,
would say no, because I waited for them to bring it up.
Nice.
Hey, Mike, I really just wish you could help me do this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I think that could look like. What do you think? And that's kind of how the conversation started. When like clients who were getting great results wanted more, cool, it's going to cost you more.
Now, are you talking about a board seat, like official board seat, or just equity? Because some of the conversations that seem to get difficult are and again, no frame, no game. Sometimes they're thinking, well, Claudio's so good at growing all these companies. What if he just worked not in-house, but kind of, like he was actually on my team, like on payroll, whether it was a quarterly dividend or an equity play, et cetera. I guess what's the expectation?
So for right now, the ones that I have in play is that I'm like an employee.
Yeah.
I'm literally CEO on the org chart. I'm on the websites as CEO, and the founder is still marked as founder and is still an active player in the team.
Yeah.
But I am marked to the ecosystem as CEO.
Nice.
Other people have me more in the background. Some people want me more in the front. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest. Like I'm a little new at this.
Yeah.
Like I've coached for a monthly retainer, a good monthly retainer
for a long time.
Yeah. And as I've gotten more involved, I enjoy it better because I can get better results with their companies than they can because I'm just really fucking good at this.
Yeah.
And so they've been okay for that piece primarily because they've been working with me for a period of time.
Yeah, they've already seen results. What if we got a little more of this guy?
What would it take to get more?
Yeah.
And so like some people do in persons, like the client here pays more and because I come here once a quarter.
Yeah.
And so like I'm still in this, I don't know what's next exactly for me.
Yeah.
I think 4 to 5,
I won't take more than 8. And by the way, I don't have 8 yet, but that's kind of my shtick.
For right now, I have 12, like we'll say clients total, and I have a couple fractional CEO.
That's what I mean. I won't take more than 8 of those big boys because they require, and that's why I guess and this might be an offline conversation. But
no, this is great.
Yeah, the reality is like
someone listening right now going like, tell me more. How do I get this?
Yeah, it's when we talked earlier about not having a particular framework, we have some foundational elements to the movement because if you're not speaking the same language as me, I can't help you. Like even like at this last event, we had a guy that's coming in at my highest ticket, and he's going to go through a 90-day experience that the guy at my lowest ticket kind of is going to go through because he has to learn the basics, or we can't fly as fast as we need to fly.
Yeah, when you like push the button later for that coaching moment, he has to understand the lingo.
The ethos of the movement. All that to say, there can't be a framework though at that level as well, because when you get into these pockets of equity or board seat or rev share agreements, it's so custom. And I guess where I was pushing back or asking is just like, how have those conversations had? Because that's something when you talk about like fairly new to that element or that phase, same. And sometimes maybe because I've initiated, but the conversation, like they will say rev share and dividends to the cows come home. But when you say the E word, they literally think I'm tearing the leg off of their teddy bear. Like, that's my leg now.
So something I've uncovered that's been helpful in that conversation, and I haven't officially done one of these yet, but it's made the conversation a little bit easier. But it's a profit share through sale, which is basically the same as equity.
Yeah.
But you have the ability to fire me easier. And I have the ability to walk away easier.
Sure.
Because honestly, like, equity ties me to them as much as it ties them to me.
Yep.
And not all of these are going to work out well.
Sure.
Right? And so I have a mandatory 12-month high-ticket coaching agreement prior to any talks of equity or deeper dive. Because I got to know, can we,
Yeah. When I even
conflict?
Would I even drink a beer with this dude?
Yeah, but my question is, how well do we conflict? Everything is easy when things are working.
Sure. How do we collide?
What happens when we disagree?
Yeah.
How well do you handle being told you're wrong?
Yeah.
Like, based on what you told me you want, you're wrong in the next step you're planning on taking.
Yeah.
And I need to know that, because I'm firm and direct on what I believe is right. People pay me to be confident in my version, my opinion, based on anecdotal plus client, but it's still my opinion based on what I've experienced.
Sure.
How well do we conflict?
Yeah.
And the ones I have right now, we proved quality conflict resolution prior to any type of equity or deeper relationship.
Now, do you test that throughout that 12-month? I mean, obviously, you can argue the circumstances is inevitable over a 12-month coaching period, but like, you know, so what I hear when you say conflict is how well do you process feedback? Because I'm giving you feedback, and I hit hard with my feedback, because I tell them too, I'm not attacking you, I'm attacking the walls, and I'm attacking the situation.
I'm attacking the problem.
And if you want to come on this side of the fence of me and we attack the problem together, we can win here. Or you could take it personally and get triggered and get, defensive, and we don't move anywhere.
But even little things like, do you do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah.
Right? Do you show up to calls on time?
Yeah.
Do you do the work I ask you to do? Are you full of excuses? Like, I look at a lot of different variables from that perspective.
Yeah.
But the truth is, man, like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm young. Like, I look at myself in the business world as still very young. I got a big runway ahead of me.
Yeah.
And everything with WinRate has been like little micro steps every 3 to 6 months. When I first started compared to where I am now, like, it's been little micro improvements. And this is just the next thing.
So have you ever considered kind of like a lower barrier to entry and building a tribe? Like, so because we've wrestled with this too. Do we want to do like a $300 ticket and just start building this wide net? So we have like kind of a paying audience, and then try to move them up the ascension model? Because it sounds like you're grabbing guys pretty far on their journey. They're already doing a mill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The answer is it's very difficult to upgrade them.
Sure. To take a 300 guy and get him to your higher ticket, that journey's very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
And so, because we built a world around, there's plenty of great programs out there.
Yeah.
There's plenty of great groups out there. There's plenty of great masterminds out there. There's very few high quality one-on-one coaching at scale. And I'm trying to fill that niche in the niche. Yeah. And so we have what we call a small business academy. That's been a really great upsell for leaders on our clients' teams. Hey, let's get, like, you can't just, like, as a leader, if you're the CEO and you're getting coached and your team isn't, you'll out-evolve them.
100%.
And you're not a coach. So, like, we built a smaller ticket environment specifically
for their leadership team,
for employees or leaders of our business owners. It's not primarily being pushed as a down sell for somebody who can't afford one-on-one.
Yeah. And the reason I ask is because, like, in meeting you finally in person, you're very, very infectious, there's no way you could, like, I think by default you could build a pretty massive following and tribe. And so obviously the answer isn't always monetize that, but I was just curious if you ever thought about that, because you're just, like, I think you could build a pretty powerful movement, just who you are. If you get on enough stages, record enough podcasts, I think it's game over for you. So.
Well, and I kind of have done that. Like, I got about 20,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel.
Nice.
I got a Facebook group with like 4,000 to 5,000 people in it, like a free Facebook group.
Sure. Are they primarily avatars or just people that just love you? You know what I mean? Or mix?
So, like, I think it's primary avatars from the standpoint of what I can tell, because YouTube drives the Facebook group growth.
Okay.
Like, we get 10 to 15 new Facebook group members a week. And I'd say 80% of them, when we say, how did you find us, says
coming
YouTube.
From your YouTube. And if they're coming from your channel, they're likely avatars.
They're likely avatars because the content is related to contractors specifically.
Gotcha.
Are they all in a point to invest in coaching? No. But they're likely in that space or aspire to that space in some way, shape, or form. And look, one-on-one coaching, in my opinion, is not as powerful for the solopreneur, because, like, they don't, like, you're coaching them, but, like, I like coaching with a team because I can expand the value faster.
It's funny you say that, because my higher level guys, now we're starting to get clear on our avatar at the higher level, and I prefer you have a team, because I can make a bigger dent, a much bigger dent.
And the ROI is simpler, right?
Yeah.
And the money makes more sense. If you've never had a high-level employee, like, my lowest ticket is $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
The highest is like $120,000 a year. If you've never hired a good employee, you don't even understand the value of a $36,000 investment.
Yeah.
You don't get it.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, how many hours of your time do I get a month? If you're asking me that question, you're not ready.
You're not for me. Yeah.
If you're equating dollars to hours, you're not ready. And that's okay. But if you're a solopreneur, in my opinion,
hold on real quick so we can unpack that, because that's going to freak some listeners out. But they need, because we laugh at that. We think that's a no-brainer analysis.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys are like, what do you mean? Like, if I hand a human being $36K, this happens in my events all the time when I sell from stage. They want the deliverables like down to the second from a time standpoint.
Yep.
And it's like, look, if you don't believe I can get you from A to B with everything that you've seen, I'm probably not for you, and that's okay. So again, how would you?
I'm gonna unpack that.
Yeah, unpack that because that's
so.
critical.
If you let's say you do $200,000 a year in gross revenue,
okay,
solopreneur, moderate ticket, and you're trying to grow. To go from 200 to 400,000 a year would change your life.
Yeah.
When I look at an investment in coaching, I'm looking at a 12-month. If I get one thing that takes me from 2 to 400, that should be worth $36,000 to you.
100%.
Not, like if you have to look at it as the value of the investment is about the next. We call them base camps. What's the next base camp? And so if you're not used to investing in employees and understanding the return on investment of that,
yep.
If you're a business owner right now still calculating dollars per hour, you're not understanding the foundation of business. Mm-hmm. Business is not an hour exchange for dollars.
You're still in the W-2.
It's a value exchange for money. And like that's how I look at it. Is like, hey, because we do a 12-month contract with 100% money back guarantee. If you do the full 12 months and we have 5 or 6 expectations. You show up on time to your calls. You do what your coach says. You follow through, that kind of stuff. I'll give you your money back.
Yep.
And like we've never refunded a person.
Same.
Ever. And it's because the value is about the year of time with access to answers that you don't have to solve the hard way. Yep. If you can't see that, go get a job. Yep. Like I mean this respectfully. It'd be easier. Like if you're doing,
it's going to be a hard road for you as an entrepreneur. Again, if you're still doing an analysis of like dollars in versus hours out.
Yeah, if you're like, well, if I just go sell, I don't have to pay somebody commission. If that's your mindset, go get a job.
Yeah.
Like I mean it, like out of love. If you can't comprehend helping other people win and paying people, like I'm huge on overpaying people. I'm gonna hold you to a really high standard, and you're not always gonna love it, but I'm gonna hold you to a standard above average. I'm gonna pay you above average. Yeah. And I love that shit. Yeah. I love changing people's lives. If that's not how you think about leadership and growing a team, if it's about your bank account and don't be a business owner, man. Yeah. It's financially is not as lucrative as you think it is in seasons. Like it goes, there's ups and downs, man.
No, that's a powerful analysis, and I hope everyone was listening because to your point, with love, like, hey, if that's how you're choosing to unpack this, like, it's probably not. This game's not for you, or you've just got a lot of growth to do, and I'm not for you at this stage in your journey. I'm definitely not for you.
I'm too disconnected from that beginning stages at this point.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say earlier is like that solopreneur. There's so much free information out there.
Yeah.
Like I've released over 500 podcast episodes. I have over 600 YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah.
There's enough information there to get you from 200 to probably 1 million.
Yeah.
Like doing 1 million in business.
Yeah.
Which like this is crazy to me. Like this is a true statistic. So if you're listening right now and you're like, man, I'm not doing enough. 96% of companies that start never make it to $1 million in revenue in a year. 96% of companies that are originated never make it to 2 commas in a year. And you got $4 million company, man, I just ain't working hard enough, man. I feel so behind. Yeah. You're in the top 4%. If you have 2 commas, you're in the top 4%. Yeah. It's really, but the reality is it's not hard to get to $1 million.
No,
Like one of the biggest things I think I've learned over the course of building this company and helping other people is money's a lot simpler to get than I ever gave myself credit for. Yeah. Because I grew up with the parents like, go get a good corporate job, make 6 figures.
Are you a first generation entrepreneur?
Yeah, I had no entrepreneurial influence growing up.
Yeah.
But I was like 23, making 150 grand in corporate America, going like, this is the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This is it. Because I was doing a job where like my peers were in their 50s.
Yeah.
I'm like 23.
Yeah.
I was so immature, but I was really good at sales. Like sales and leadership. I was just being good at it for a long time. And I was like, I'm worth more than this. And I don't know where that came from. I cannot tell you where that came from.
It wasn't a day, a moment, a switch, a flip. I mean, obviously, years of looking at 50-year-olds in the same position as you, because that exact sentence would be. Is that me? Is that me right there?
There was a moment. So I went from small to medium B2B sales to enterprise sales, which like my clients when I left Verizon were like U.S. Airways, Volvo. I had like 5 or 6 like
heavy hitters.
Yeah. And I remember looking at my budget for the year. Like my sales budget for the year was like $35 million. And I'm like, and they're going to pay me 160 grand to do that. I went, that doesn't fucking calculate. If they trust me with $35 million in revenue on these like 5 to 7 clients, I'm worth more than this. And I was immature as shit at the time. But that's when I got into construction. I was like, I don't know. I said, Tiff, I remember looking at my wife. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm worth more than this, and I'm going to go find it. And I took $100,000 pay cut to go work for my buddy's remodeling company.
How did wifey respond to that?
So originally it was anything to make you less miserable. Because I went from hunter to farmer, and like I was in the small to medium. I was like, go out and get, and then this enterprise, it was like sit back and wait.
Sure.
Like I was basically
nurturing
grow, these big.
You'll reap eventually. Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get it, and I was miserable. And she was like, anything, if you think this will help make you happy, I'm in support of it. And we both had great success. Like she was making six figures as well when she was like 22, and so like we could support the lifestyle we had. But it was scary. Looking back now, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
But those are the moves. That's the guy that exactly like 100%. Let me ask you a quick. I'm going to push back on hunter versus farmer because I would. As you say that, I'm reminded of a talk I do whereby solopreneur versus builder of people, because I would argue you're a farmer again, unfortunately, because now the people that you're building are your crops, that you're constantly nurturing and trying to put them in the sun, and feed them the right soil, and then they're out there gathering and going to basically reap a harvest. So how is that for you? Because there's freedom in it now because they're producing directly for you and you're able to obviously be here on what is today, Thursday, middle of the day, right? Yep. So that's a beautiful thing. But how the growth is obviously much larger, but is it slower? Is it different? Like, because guys like us, I call it the hustler inside of you is never going to die. So do you ever just get on sometimes? And I mean, obviously, I guess you still have 6, 7, 8, or 12 personal clients. So I guess you're still hunting. Is that to scratch an itch? Like, I guess do you see yourself not having a client ever and staying in farmerland?
So I'll tell you how the journey adjusted for me.
Yeah.
And when I learned the value of leadership over hunting as an individual contributor, because like in corporate America and then going into the remodeling space, even the roofing space after that, like I was an individual contributor. When I went to the roofing company, I was a player coach, which I think is the hardest thing to do in business. If you promote a salesman into sales manager and you expect him to sell and manage, I believe it's one of the hardest positions to fill in all of business. Because you're constantly at the demand of a team and clients, and you're always letting somebody down. It's a very, very difficult job to do. So put in perspective, in 2018, as a company, we did about $6 million in total revenue. I sold $3.8 million of it while leading a team.
And delivered against it?
Yeah, we collected.
No, but when you sold it on the front end, you also were the deliverable against the 3.8. As in, like, you delivered the goods, the services.
No, so like the production team installed the roof.
Okay.
It was roofing.
Okay, we're roofing. I'm sorry, I was thinking coaching.
No, this is strictly roofing. This is 2018 before coaching.
Okay.
This was roofing. I was in a player coach position. This is the story of how I learned the value of moving from hunter, individual contributor, to leader.
Gotcha.
So this was the first time in my life that I was able to have a very, very direct impact on other people. Because I did leadership in corporate America, but there's so much red tape and there's so many rules and HR. Like, you don't really make as big of an impact. You're basically just like an overpaid babysitter. But in this, I built a team of 5 or 6 sales guys and was like literally changing these dudes' lives. And that was, I think, the ability to scratch the itch of hunter while farming for this team allowed me to go through this journey of evolution from one to the other.
Nice.
Where I started getting more personal satisfaction out of seeing my team grow than closing the deal. And closing the deal became the nuisance. Where it was, the deal was the
dopamine.
Dopamine, and then like, oh my God, stop calling me, dude. Just go fucking do your job. To, man, like this fucking client's like $1 million deal is just wearing me out. I want to go work with my team. That was the hardest season, but that's where that journey transitioned for me. And so now I am more of a farmer I'm not hunting contracts anymore. I'm hunting
new people, though.
life,
team,
life changes.
Yeah.
I'm hunting people to impact.
Yeah.
And then I sit with them. And so, but that journey at the roofing company is when I really made the transition from the dopamine hit of individual contributor to leader and get more out of the leadership than the individual contributor. So, and that took that fucking sucked.
No, so this has been an interesting interview, by the way. I want to point this out, like, because people keep saying we're very similar in the way we think and act and so on. But rarely do I have somebody when I'm on this side of the fence asking the questions. As I'm asking them, like I'm watching you, like, I don't know if it's light up, but like you're already ready to answer it 6 ways from Sunday. You're like, oh yeah, I know. A, I know where you're going, and B, like I mean, this is your life. You're living this, bro.
I'm
It is so,
I'm so
like you
passionate
said, I
about
can
it.
see how when you're on stage, it's like Will Ferrell, old school.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like complete flow state. It's just, it comes through you.
It does.
Man. We're getting to wrap up time, and obviously the podcast is called Feedback. So, like, if there was like one major piece of feedback that you can give to my audience, and just figure our audience is very similar. I work with male entrepreneurs married with kids, and a lot of them are struggling, fighting alone, trying to figure out how to go from hunter to farmer and get to that next level. Maybe like, what is one major piece of feedback that you'd like to leave these guys that's impacted you on your journey?
One of the biggest exercises I do with people is on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard, is write down every role you're trying to play in your life. And as a business owner, you're likely trying to play sales manager, salesperson, controller, production manager, operations person, payroll, ARAP, and then life, you're like dad, husband, father, son, brother. Maybe you volunteer at church, maybe you're on the board at the local thing, maybe you're trying to coach sports. Put on a piece of paper every role you're trying to play. And look at it and figure out which roles are causing you to underperform your minimum performance in the roles that matter most. So like my primary roles are husband, father, leader, athlete.
So step one, define your primary roles.
Define your primary.
Okay.
Figure out like I had a client that came to me. I think we wrote like he was like 19 different things he was trying to like fill between his business and life. And I'm like, how? And he was like, dude, seeing it on paper makes it seem impossible. It is impossible.
Yeah.
So identify your primary. For me, it's 4. Husband, father, leader, athlete. Once you define those 4 primary, define like with bullet points. I use bullet points. What does your minimum performance look like in those roles? What's your floor?
Okay.
Like what's your floor as a husband? Maybe it's date night twice a month. Maybe it's, for my wife and I, we do a Monday lunch every Monday and we do date night twice a month. That's my floor right now. So quantify and identify what's your floor. And then figure everything that's causing you to underperform your floor. Because when I talk to people, I talk about raising floors. Like you have your, like all your like
language, sure.
Like people know me for talking about raising floors.
Yeah.
And people try to play too many roles. And when you realize that like volunteering at that thing or coaching your kids baseball, as much as it feels good, it causes you to underperform in the roles that actually matter. And that, for most people, specifically high performers who are trying to say yes too much, changes their perspective on how negative some of those yeses are to the roles that matter. Like saying yes to that thing.
Yeah, because every time you say yes to something, you say no to something else.
And so for me, like, I'm not a bad friend. I'm disengaged from friendship as a role right now. I'm just not
Hold on,
trying.
say that one again. That's a very powerful sentence. That's hits. Say that again.
I'm not a bad friend. I'm disengaged from my friendship role right now.
Oof.
And like, I have clients to be like, they'll like, end contracts and like they said, like, well, like I never hear from you anymore. Like that's because as a client, I don't have friends.
Yeah.
As a client, you get everything I have because I don't make time for friends.
I need to use that. Well, let me ask you this. When you develop a 1 year or 2 year relationship with a client and then they're no longer a client and they move on in their journey, I've had one, and we actually know who this is in particular. He said, hey, man, I feel like I'm financing your friendship. Because exactly that. He's like, when I'm paying you and I'm a paying client, I got you on the bat phone whenever. But when I'm reaching out as a friend, you're harder to get a hold to. And I'm trying to explain I'm in a season, man. What do you want me to do? You know what I mean?
Well, and
how do you wrestle with that without getting us off topic too much?
No, I tell them the truth. The truth is I prioritize my time for paying people. And this is something I learned a long time ago. I think you're gonna like this.
Yeah.
Not everybody deserves the best version of me.
Oof.
Not everybody deserves the best version of me. And yes, there's a cost of admission because I'm a really good fucking person. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I care, I give endlessly. I can't do that for everybody, or I end up empty, and the people that matter most get nothing.
Yeah.
So I protect my time. I protect my energy. I view what I give people in my mentorship, coaching, friendship as a gift.
Yeah.
I protect my gift for certain people. And that doesn't mean, just because you're not a client, doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Doesn't mean I hate you. I prioritize my gift for people who have earned it. And earning it right now, my profession is being the best mentor possible. To do that, I can't give my energy to friends. I have to save it for my team and my customers and my family.
So then, as I'm processing that live, as powerful as it is in my head, again, I got to unpack this story on another date. I'm hearing my friend be like, okay, so I haven't earned it, or I haven't. And it's like, well, yeah, but in the reality, to your point, and you know what? everybody I deal with is a business owner, so they should respect the fact that I have to put paying clients first right now. That's the season I'm in.
But my opinion is that's a them ego issue,
100%.
not a you.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like, well, I have to pay you for your friendship. No, you pay me for my time.
Yeah.
I don't make time for friends.
Yeah.
I didn't make time for friends when you were a client.
Yeah.
There's not a single time you
and
called
you loved me for that. Yeah.
And you loved me for that.
Yeah,
There's not a single time that you called me and said, hey, man, I'm out with my friends right now. I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah.
Not fucking once.
That's it. I'm good now. I needed to hear that part. That was it for me.
So like, but I want the audience to hear this.
Yeah.
You pay for friendship if that's what you value. I'm not your friend. I'm your mentor.
Yeah.
And I know what you need. In some seasons you need a friend, in some seasons you need a kick in the ass, in some seasons you need a hard ass, in some seasons you need a hug. I'm the expert. So if I'm giving you friendship right now,
it's because I've
determined that's what you need right now.
Yeah.
And if you didn't value that enough to continue to be a part of my ecosystem, don't judge me for not giving it to you when you decided to move on.
Ooh. We'll clip that one up. Yeah.
There you go. But that's happened to me.
But because I think when you're naturally a go-giver, which is definitely who we are and who we attract, that's our vibe and our tribe. Like, it is tough because you do want to say yes to everybody and be there for everybody, and you know what I mean, like, hug it out. And even though you're not paying me anymore, I still want you to win. And what does that look like? I don't know.
When what that person doesn't see are the friends I started saying no to say yes to them.
Oof. Yeah.
They don't see that part.
Yeah.
They don't see the friendships I lost because I removed friendship as a role that I was prioritizing. I don't make time for friends. That doesn't make me a bad friend. I'm just a disengaged into the friendship role. And so I don't make time for it. So what you didn't see as a paying client were the friends that didn't get a response. Yeah. The friends that got told no.
I prioritized you. Yeah.
The friends that I said, hey, man, please stop inviting me out. I'm never going to say yes right now.
That's definitely, we've gotten that one down pretty well. Yeah.
But that person who got all of me because they were paying for it didn't see those other conversations. So they don't understand how many people got let down to prioritize them.
All right, so real quick, because I think I derailed us on this on your last bit of feedback. I want people to actually be able to walk through that exercise.
So identify all the roles you're trying to play.
Okay.
Put on a piece of paper.
Got it.
I like using the EOS accountability chart, and then I have a section for personal.
Okay.
So like like sales, market, operation, production, finance, HR, and then personal. Put all the boxes that you're trying to play. Figure out what are the most important to you right now, and then start to eliminate one role at a time. Fill the box. Sometimes it's eliminate, sometimes it's delegate, sometimes it's hire. Whatever it is, start to remove them. And then determine, I skipped a step of determine what your minimum performance in the roles that are important to you.
So let's just stay in the world of 4 to make it easier for these listeners. So you write everything down. You might have 8 or 9, like you said, coach and all these things, right? So you pick your top 4. Then you pick what your floor is.
What is your floor?
In those top 4.
Yep.
And then you move on to the
And then you remove anything that's stopping you or anything that's caused you to underperform your floor.
Yeah.
And then as you start to remove things, you can actually raise your floor and become more involved as a husband, more involved as a father.
And by the way, when he says remove, guys, remove.
Remove.
And I think that's where guys are going to get stuck.
But it's frame it, right? Hey, I can't volunteer at church anymore right now because. But it could just be no, period.
Yeah.
Just
I feel like we owe it. We feel like, and this is something I've been working on for years, and I still have to teach the guys, is you feel like you owe everybody an explanation. Sometimes it is no, period. Sometimes it is, I think people feel like, and I think, we call this the capacity to collide, which you kind of almost brought up a little earlier with your wife in that conversation around porn. Having the capacity for collision creates capacity. I can go on a C rant, but if you can't have the capacity to have that collision, i.e. send that message that I have to step away from the church board for the next 90 days or for foreseeable future, most men don't have the capacity to send that message.
They don't.
You know what I mean? Because
really
it's gonna inherently bring some version of
so
friction.
So this is how I've taught people to acknowledge it in the moment. I talk a lot about triggers, right? That trigger,
that
right?
Visceral feeling,
whatever that we call it anxiety. But if you're driving somewhere or meet to somebody and you're triggered by it, use that as an easy. Hey man, I don't know why, but there's something about this that doesn't feel good. I'm going home. Be willing to listen to the trigger in the moment.
Oof.
People will then sit through it, and it drains the shit out of them. And then they come home angry and they yell at their wife or hit their kids because they were angry because fuck, this motherfucker just keeps bugging me and he's a fucking loser. Yeah. And but I gotta go hang out with them, or they won't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the fucking fantasy football this year. You can fucking delete the shit. Stop gambling on DraftKings. Whatever you don't have to do anything. You get to do the things that matter most if you prioritize them.
Yeah.
And that, I'm a little bit lonely sometimes. But you know what? I wouldn't trade who I am right now as a husband. Yeah. I wouldn't trade who I am right now as a father. I wouldn't trade who I am as a leader. I wouldn't trade who I am as an athlete right now. And like, I'm in a really great spot right now because it took years of starting to peel away things that weren't important anymore and being willing to get made fun of and hurting people's feelings and getting yelled at and getting the bullshit DMs.
Yes, the capacity for the collision. Man.
I will take every one of those because what I realize is they would never be willing to do it themselves, which makes me better than them.
Oof.
And I like being better than people. I like doing shit other people won't do.
Let's drop the mic on that note because you just gave us like 16 reels at the very end there. You definitely got into a deep flow state. That's a wrap for today. Before we go, right, my man Mike Claudio. I know you're based out of Greenville, but obviously you service guys, as far as wherever it takes,
all over the
to
country,
help them win. How do people find you? How do we get in touch with WinRate or your team? It's
so
we.
Yeah. So if you're interested in working with WinRate, go to workwithwinrate.com. Okay. Like that's our primary landing page for just understanding what it looks like. Obviously, winrate.com is our primary, or winrateconsulting.com is our primary, like, bigger website. But if you just go to mikeclaudio.com, that has like my content links and kind of the things. My wife and I have a nonprofit that we kind of promote there a little bit. But overall, like, if you just Google Mike Claudio, you're gonna find something. Yeah. There's so much content out there.
Nice. Yeah, 600 YouTubes, 500 podcast episodes. He's been all over my feed for a year and a half now, and everyone's telling us to get in the same room. So we finally did it. I appreciate your time.
I think this is powerful, man. Appreciate you.
I love this. We could go on for hours. There's a lot we could unpack.
No, I'm excited to come back at like episode 100 and like see where your podcast is at that point. So don't fucking give up.
I will 100% not. Like you said, if it comes out of my mouth, it's already done.
I'm excited to see how your podcast impacts people, man, because I agree. Like, I agree that you are selfish when you're like not willing to put the stuff out there because I'm last little thing. So I think this will matter to you because I think you're going to go through a journey of like putting it out there, and you're going to be tracking the data, and you're going to be looking at the downloads. You're like, is it working or not? I made a commitment in 2018 when I started my content journey that if I felt like what I had to say would impact one person, it'd be irresponsible of me to not say it or not put it out. And that's helped a lot of people in the content game. Yeah. Like if you think what you have to say would impact one person, it's irresponsible of you not. And now I've impacted millions of people with my content over the last 5 years.
No, 100%. I appreciate that feedback for myself directly, and again for the audience, because there's so many of us out there that are struggling with like, what are people going to think? And,
totally.
And it's again that selfish conversation that I had with Hunter was just like, wow. Like you said, if one dude,
Hunter's good at like that little like slight jab every once in a while. He's good at that.
Yeah. Well, cool, brother. I appreciate you coming out. That's a wrap for us. This has been Feedback with your boy, Nick Alfano, and the episode will drop when it drops. So we'll see you guys.